I've recently been reading The Authority Gap. I don't know if you've
Not
heard of that book.
That one, no.
It's a book about like why there's a authority gap between like women and men in business, and what to do about it. And apparently like there is a lot of research that's been done on confidence in women, and that like they're kind of taught from a young age to like not be as confident and things like that. So that was an eye-opening experience for me to read that book.
In what sense? I've not read the book, so in what sense?
So in school, for example, on average, the male students are more likely to, get their answers like checked and feedback given to them, whereas women are more likely to not be given feedback or to be encouraged to take something less complicated, rather than being given constructive feedback in order to like get better. Like there's been a lot of instances in my career where I've been told like you should change careers because you're not good enough.
Welcome to the podcast, Jay Wilson.
Hello, thank you for having me.
So I don't know what to describe you guys because you're like LinkedIn superstar now, and you work at Microsoft as well. So what's your role at Microsoft? We'll start with that.
Yep, so I'm a senior software engineer at Microsoft. I've been working at Microsoft for just nearly 2 years now. Started as a senior, started as a software engineer too, and yeah, I've like just grown into the senior role recently. So
fantastic.
that's pretty much. And
you also, every time I go on LinkedIn, I used to see my face, but now I see your face. So, what you've been doing on LinkedIn? What you've been up to over the last year? Yeah,
so the last year on LinkedIn really has been about growing my audience. So I started off on LinkedIn, just posting every day. I just thought, okay, well, I'll see what I can do by posting every day, see how I can grow. And that just seemed to resonate with a lot of people. And then I've been trying to like grow my channels using mainly YouTube at the moment. So I've been putting a little bit more focus on that because it's a lot easier to do more technical content on there, more deep dives, because on LinkedIn you can only really put like a small fraction of what you're actually thinking, and it's more for like conversation rather than for like really teaching people. So I've been putting a bit more focus into YouTube recently, and that's been going quite well. But yeah, it's mainly just to try and increase my impact of helping other people get into the software engineering industry. So I do a lot with working with people who are like just starting their careers, just either they've come from a boot camp or they are like, self-taught, or they've just finished a degree, try to get their first role. So I've been working with a lot of like people who are trying to get those entry-level roles recently, just guiding them, just saying what they need to focus on. And yeah, that's been my main focus over the past year outside of my role.
So with your LinkedIn bit, Jade, what I've noticed with some of your posts, you've been very sort of prominent in giving your opinions, your views. I've also noticed that some people challenge you, and I wonder how do you deal with it, and B, what are you does it matter? Does it bother you that people go, no, I don't agree with that? To be fair, I would say a high proportion that I've seen are always supporting your view. But when you get the anti view, how do you cope?
Yeah, so it really depends on the level. So like if people are just disagreeing, and that's really, really healthy. I have very common disagreements with people all the time who, I really, really respect, who have very, very differing views and have very, very different experiences. And that's absolutely fine. If it gets to a point where they're getting insulting, or they've been doing it quite a lot, where they're just like getting to a point where they're just being mean, then I just block them, because I think at that point, they're not interested in a conversation with you. They just want to, they're not interested in your point of view at that point.
Yeah,
they just want to like cause noise. They want to use your platform to make their voice heard. But usually it's always really respectful. I'm always really open to try and understand where someone else is coming from. And sometimes it's made me change my point of view as well. So that's always been quite good when that's happened.
So when did you start the kind of LinkedIn activity and putting yourself out there?
So it would have been July last year. So that was when I thought, okay, I'd been posting like on and off before then, but July is when I really thought, okay, I'm going to dedicate some time to this and try and grow my presence. And
in terms of, I don't know, what's the metric? Number of followers, I guess, is the kind of key metric. Where are you at currently?
So I don't know, like number of followers like isn't really that important to me like anymore, like especially on LinkedIn, but like at the moment it's around 50,000 on LinkedIn, and then on YouTube it's around just under 2,000, but mainly with YouTube it's about trying to increase my watch hours, because like that's more important, like because you can't monetize something that doesn't have enough watch hours, unfortunately.
People consuming the content. So what's the end goal then? Why have you set off on this journey? What is it you're looking to achieve down the road?
So I just like to like branch off into being able to use my channels to like help people, but I don't want to do it in a way that people have to pay for my content. I want to do it in a way that like, you know, it can be paid by like ads or by like monetization. So if I can put stuff out there that's free, but can also like be monetized just by, you know, being on YouTube or something like that's a great strategy, I think.
And as someone who's tried to build a profile on LinkedIn, it's hard. Like, so to get to 50,000 followers and 2,000 followers on YouTube is pretty phenomenal, really. So why do you think that is? You've had a lot of traction in a year. What do you put that down to?
So probably I think there's a few things. I think there's the people who are opinionated. So I think having an opinion and being able to say your opinion is one thing. I think as well, I get a lot of people saying that they think I'm funny. So a lot of my posts kind of encompass the like satire, like humor that I've got. So I think that helps as well. And then I'm not gonna lie, I think being like at Microsoft helps as well. I think that helps.
Yeah. So talk about Microsoft then. So you've been there 2 years? Obviously you had a career before Microsoft.
Yeah.
I'm sure most people, when they start a career in tech, probably Microsoft is one of the companies that they ultimately want to end up in, aspire to be in. Exactly. So how is it different from other businesses that you worked in?
The thing that I found the most weird about Microsoft when I started was just like it wasn't like on fire all the time. So every company I've been in before I went to Microsoft like was either like a startup or like a company that was like going from like small to medium size. So there was always like a chaotic nature in the way that you were delivering work, in that like you needed to deliver something that needed to be delivered yesterday. And so you were always feeling like you like were constantly chasing your tail, constantly like looking at the next feature that you need to deliver. Whereas with Microsoft, it's a lot like, I'm not going to say it's slow, but it's not you have a lot of high expectations, but you also get a lot of time to, you know, develop yourself. You get a lot of time to study and learn new things within like Azure, for example. So you get a lot of time to actually improve your skills. So I think that was the biggest difference that I found with working at Microsoft versus like in the previous companies that I've been in. You just get a lot more development time.
I guess with small businesses, with startups, typically you'd think they're quite agile, they can adapt really quickly. And Microsoft, I mean, they're an incredible company, but they're a huge company. So are the challenges with that agility, are the challenges with being able to pivot quickly with Microsoft or not?
I wouldn't necessarily say like when developing the software. So like when we're working on a project, we tend to be able to work quite quickly with our customers. So the way that our team works is we work on projects typically like 3 to 6 months. I think that's changing to like year-long projects now, where we co-engineer with their development engineers. and we are basically training them on how to use Azure and like working with them on getting their product like in Azure. And so we are able to be really agile in that sense, because we put a lot of focus into like making sure that we can have continuous integration, continuous deployment, infrastructure as code. We, care a lot about unit testing and things like that. So in that sense, we're very agile. I guess the challenges are more like when we're actually, getting projects, and that can take a while in terms of them coming through to the actual team. But once they're to the team, we end up being quite agile in the way that we work.
Okay. And tying it in with the LinkedIn piece, so Microsoft give you an opportunity to create that content, and they see that as kind of part of your role. Is that fair?
The majority of my content that I do is outside of my work.
Okay. Fine.
So, but they're like, as long as it isn't like conflicting with your role, it's absolutely fine to do that.
Okay. And any advice for anybody who is looking to, I guess, grow their LinkedIn presence and build their personal brand? Any other advice that you've got?
Yeah. So I think the main one is consistency. So if you want to grow, you tend to need to post like a couple of times a day. I found like that really gave me a significant growth by posting a couple of times a day, versus if I just posted once a day, that was much slower.
Right.
So posting a couple of times a day is important. I think scheduling time in the day to actually respond to people. So I typically like try and schedule some time in the evening to respond to comments and stuff like that, because it's not just about like firing and then forgetting. It's about interacting with people, building a relationship with the people who are your audience and who are like actually interested in the content that you provide. So that it's quite a time consuming activity.
Yeah. So how do you think of the ideas of what to post 2 times a day? Because it's tough. Like whenever I've posted in the past, like you try and think of ideas, but to do that so regularly and so frequently must be hard. How do you come up with the inspiration behind that?
So I think it depends on like my headspace at the time. So like so I try and get to a point where I can schedule like a few posts throughout the week. So that means that when like I haven't got any ideas, that I've at least got something that's going to be scheduled, that's going to be posted. And like typically I'll have ideas that kind of like all come in like a short time frame, and you don't want to post them one after the other, one after the other, because it's just too much in one go. So schedule those ones, but then like every now and again I'll just get a random thought in my head like that comes up, and I'm like, okay, there's a really good like post that I could make about this. So I'll either, if it's a really short thing, write it down and just post it, or write it in a note to develop on later. So have like an ideas like sheet that you can be like, okay, these are just ideas that I can talk about. And then like what's really funny though, like is the ones that have had the least like or the best engagement have typically been the ones that I've like thought about like in a couple of minutes and just posted.
Out there.
Yeah.
Do you have to dedicate time to actually, like at the weekend, you sit down, think, right, I'm going to create content, or I'm going to come up with ideas for content, or is it just something that comes naturally to you while you're doing the ironing at 8 o'clock at night?
It's more the latter. I do like sometimes like on an evening, but like, okay, I need to like, plan out like content, but that's more like for YouTube.
Right.
So like the YouTube side, that's where I have to think, okay, well, like I need to plan the actual video that I'm going to do. I need to plan the structure out. They need a little bit more like thinking about of how you're actually going to do it. And then like, especially the technical ones where you're going into code, then you need to like prepare the code before you actually video it. Like just plan out what it is that you're going to actually video before you actually do the video.
Okay. And
sorry, I was going to ask, do you use, I guess you must follow or, have people on LinkedIn or YouTube that you take inspiration from, or you might have differing views too. Do you use those as prompts to actually create some of your own content? Because Bax is always on at me about, look, you're in sales, you should be, doing more on LinkedIn. as Steve said, I'm struggling for one a day, let alone two a day, every day, and then responding to, because I am actually all the wrong things by the sounds of it, because, I do reply to comments, if I get comments, excuse me, but I'm not putting enough content out there to generate the following to get the traction, if you like. So, I mean, what apart from just ideas that come into your head when you're doing the ironing, where do you get your inspiration?
Yeah, so what's really nice is, like, especially in the tech community, there's like a little like there's loads of different influences that that you can take ideas from. Like, I don't know, there was this thing that happened the other day where, like, someone, Ryan Murphy, that's his name, and he'd done a post about how to be successful on LinkedIn, and like one of the things on it was about how, like, copy people's content basically, and then like James May then copied that post like word for word, like, and posted it himself, and then was like tagged Ryan in it, and then I did the same thing, and then it just like created this like this like viral sort of like chain of people doing it, and like things like that is just a great way to like make the internet go mad.
So are you in like a community now of influencers? Are the people that do you communicate with them? Do you share ideas?
Yeah. So we do have like a Slack channel where we talk to each other and just like chat about like different ideas of what we could do. It's more like just getting advice for, okay, like, have you had any issues with, like, this brand, or have you had any issues with this type of post, kind of thing. Okay. But yeah, no, it's good. It's really helpful. It really helped me when I got added, because I used to be like alone, like doing it, and it felt quite isolating because like most people aren't really that interested in it, and so like there's this big part of your life that you're doing, and then like there's no one like you can really talk to it about. So being a part of that influencer community has been really helpful.
We need to get in on this, JV. We need in on the Slack channel.
We need to up our original game to actually have any chance.
Yeah, when we get to 500 followers, the more that's it. In terms of, you said something about kind of your, I guess, target persona or your followers. Who is there a type of individual that follows you? Is it sort of developers? Is that your kind of go-to community? What's your follower base look like? Yeah,
I'd say like the majority of people who follow me are like the kind of entry-level like software engineers who are looking to get into the industry. Yeah. There is a mix of like more senior ones who follow me as well, but a lot of my target is entry-level software developers.
And it's a bit of a leading question, but have you had to learn new skills as you've done this? Because I know from when we started doing the podcast, like someone sticks a camera in front of you and you're like, oh my God, what am I doing? Have you been through a development journey on this, or have you been used to that sort of sitting in front of a camera and talking to people? So
I initially, like, when I first started like filming on camera, I started in September. Right. And it took me 3 months before I actually posted a video that I was mildly happy about. Right. So like that was a journey in itself, because when I first started talking to a camera, like it was rehearsed, everything was like, there was a script, I was saying it line for line, like the script, and it felt so robotic. I might like show this video like one time, because I have got it still, but like getting more comfortable like speaking to the camera was really, really like pivotal, I think, because until you get to that point, it just feels really like unnatural and awkward to watch, I think. But yeah, that was the biggest skill I had to learn. I did Ali Abdal's course on like YouTube, which was like $1. It was like a foundations course, and that really helped as well. It was just like, how to get like good lighting, like, how to like focus on like doing your microphone audio and things like that, which definitely helped.
And what about like editing and stuff? Because we know how long it takes to...
I outsource that.
Oh, do you? Okay. No. Just jumping in to talk about one of the processes that we often get asked to automate, which is the processing of supplier invoices, also known as accounts payable automation. So what does that mean? Well, most businesses receive invoices from their suppliers, and a lot of businesses still have people that are manually reviewing those invoices, making sure that they're correct, making sure they're accurate, and then manually rekeying them into a finance system or an ERP system. Well, our solution can automate that process. So typically an invoice will come in, we'll use capture technology to understand what's on that invoice. We'll then match that data up against goods received note to make sure that we've received the product. We'll match it up against purchase order data to make sure that somebody has placed an order for that product. And ultimately, if we can match that up, we can automatically push that into an ERP system or finance system, and nobody has to touch it. How good does that sound? If there are exceptions, if there are things that need to be checked, that's fine. We can use digital workflow to push that to somebody to eyeball it and say, is this correct or does something need to change? Ultimately, though, that can then be pushed again into an ERP system or a finance system. This is about making your life easier. It's about making operations as quick and as efficient as possible. And we do that all the time. If that sounds interesting, then get in touch. That's enough from me. Back to the podcast. But let's talk about women in tech, because one of the things you post a lot about is women in tech and how, I don't know how long your career has been, but how has the role of women within the world of technology, how has that changed during the course of your career, or has it changed?
So like I started university in 2012, but I didn't start like computer science until 2013. And when I joined, there's 3 women in my year, like doing computer science.
Out of how many?
Out of, I think there's like 80 people,
right,
80 students.
Yeah.
So there wasn't many women actually doing the computer science degree. And I don't know like what's the statistics are now. I do know that like apparently it's like 23% of women who like 23% of like people who are in tech are women or something like that. But
it's lower than I thought actually.
Yeah.
I suppose which is that tech just general or in
tech just general, and then I think it's like 20% like software engineers. I saw the statistic the other day. I can't say like exact, but no. The numbers were still like a quarter of women in tech or something like that. It's been an interesting journey because like you kind of I think like one of the biggest things for me was like learning confidence, I guess, as a software engineer. I think especially when I compared myself to some of my male colleagues, they outwardly had more confidence than I did. And so that's the biggest like journey for me of being a woman in tech, is just gaining that confidence. Though I've recently been reading The Authority Gap. I don't know if you've
not
heard of that book.
One, no.
It's a book about like why there's a authority gap between like women and men in business, and what to do about it. And apparently like there is a lot of research that's been done on confidence in women, and that like they're kind of taught from a young age to like not be as confident and things like that. So that was an eye-opening experience for me to read that book.
In what sense? I've not read the book, so in what sense?
So let me try and think. So in school, for example, I'm rephrasing. I can't remember the exact wording. They're saying about how like on average, the male students are more likely to get their answers like checked and feedback given to them, whereas women are more likely to not be given feedback or to be encouraged to take something less complicated, rather than being given constructive feedback in order to like get better. Okay. And that feedback, that ability to grow someone's abilities is crucial in getting better in that skill. So that was one thing that I thought, wow, that's I can see how that was thinking, I can see how eye-opening that is, because there's been a lot of instances in my career where I've been told you should change careers because you're not good enough at this, you're not good enough at that, or I've been assumed to not be like a software engineer, if that makes sense. So,
sorry, Joe, jumping in. As to the point as that, you should think about not actually. Do you know what? For whatever reason, actually, there's a bit of a weakness there, Jade. If you did X, Y, and Z, crack on. Is it just as blunt?
Yeah.
As...
I've been told I should switch from being a software engineer to a QA, which, like, I just want to preface that with, there's nothing like wrong with being a QA. Like, it's a great career path, but like, it's the insinuation that someone should not do what they want to do because someone's deemed them not like technical enough for it.
I guess that was my point. It's more like someone said, technically, you shouldn't be doing it, their opinion, not saying actually, do you know what, at the moment, if you need to work on being the constructive side, work on that, and you'll fly in this discipline.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's what that book, what I'm referring to, kind of says, like, women are often encouraged to do something completely different rather than being given feedback on, no, you need to work on this, and this in order to do the career that you want to do.
Are businesses and education, should they be doing more to get women into STEM and into software and tech, or do you think that's already happening?
I think there's still it feels like there's still quite a gap from women who are actually going into like tech at an earlier age. It feels like there's still this stigma that is like with computer science, especially, to say, this is male for men. I remember like when I was in school, I thought programming was for boys. I remember that like very clearly. I was like, I've never touched a program in my life. I've never worked with a programming language in my life. So, that's clearly not for me. And I think changing that perception that it's not just for people who have been doing it since they were young, and that anyone can really do it. Like,
when did you start? Sorry.
So I didn't start programming until I got to until I did my degree.
Okay.
I played with a bit of like CSS and HTML when I was in school, but I didn't realize that was related to it in all. I just did it because there was a website like called Pixar. I don't know if any of you remember Pixar.
Well, but no.
It was a website where you could like create like a page about yourself, and me and all my friends did it when we were like teenagers, and like I just used to get the templates and like take the ads out of the templates,
right?
Like just by editing the HTML, and I didn't really like think of that as like like coding. I didn't, and that I guess is another thing, like you don't necessarily realize that you can do this as a career, and it's not really encouraged early on to be like, okay, this is something that you can do, because you kind of get put off it by the fact that you think that it's only for people who have been programming. And I remember when I got to university, and I was doing maths at the time, but I didn't like it. I was looking at like different options of what to do, and it's only because my partner at the time was doing computer science that I actually switched to computer science. So I probably wouldn't have done that if I wasn't like dating that person. And he was like, you should do computer science because it is basically just maths and IT combined. And I'd done IT previously, and I did maths previously, so I was like, okay, I'll try that. And then,
so if you're, I don't know, maybe not John's age, but like, let's say mid-20s and looking for a new career, are you saying it's, because I guess I'm probably guilty, that is it too late to get into coding at that point, or absolutely not? You can.
No, I've seen people like even like in their 30s and 40s like switch to doing programming.
Not quite 50s.
No, still no hope for you, John.
Anyone can do it.
And how would you go about? Because one of the things you do is you help mentor and get people developing the career in that space. So how would you, if you were mid-30s and wanted to move into coding and software development, what would you recommend as the kind of first few steps to achieve that?
So I think it really depends on what your background is. Like if you've got, you kind of need to look at the skills that you've already developed and see how you can leverage them to like increase your presence in the field that you want to get into. The most typical way that I've seen people do it is they start like a boot camp that gives them like a like quick crash course, I guess, on like certain tools that they need to get into the industry, but like it's definitely not like enough in order to secure a role. So they typically do the boot camp, and then we need to work on like building their like skills to get them like comfortable, like, you know, building projects, like understanding what it is that's happening behind the scenes, because that tends to be like glossed over in the boot camp. So it's very much enough to get you up and going, but not enough to make you understand it properly.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of work on like, okay, like if you got interviewed on this and if you got asked a question on this, like we need to make sure that you can understand this concept. So we start working on that. But typically I would say like for someone who hasn't like done any coding before, it tends to take them about a year,
right?
Like to actually like of building up experience before they actually land a role.
And how long's a boot? Is a boot camp like a week long or 2 months long? Or?
They're about 3 months long, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, 3 to 4 months long.
It's quite a commitment.
I was going to say quite a commitment, and then, you know, trying to not be too controversial, your mid-30s, do the boot camp, then you've still not got, you know, you've only got a proportion of what you need to make that role, and then you're up against, you know, younger applicants, if you like, who are straight out of university that have done it. Surely that's a tough
yeah
gig.
and it's like there's loads of different factors that you can't control either, like location's one. So really you want to be going for somewhere that's local to you, because there's a lot less competition. Like people have to be comfortable with maybe getting an apprenticeship if they're happy with that, because, you know, it's a little bit easier for them if they want to get into it a little bit quicker. There is like I do know people who like specialize in like getting like you know, those like really like well-paying jobs, like, and working with people to get like really well-paying jobs, but like that's like you have to pay a lot of money for them.
Yeah. One other thing I wanted to ask you about was the kind of role in technology in changing software development. So AI, you can't pick up a paper or go on a website without seeing AI being talked about. So, and one of the things I've heard is that AI and generative AI is going to change the way that software is written. And I just wanted to get your view on whether you see that or whether that's a bit of a red herring.
So I do think it will like change like productivity massively. So like if you know what it is that you want to do, it's a really good time saver. So you can save a lot of time. You can be like, okay, this is great. I can ask it to do all these things for me and it'll do it. The challenge really is like getting to a point where you have enough skills and knowledge that you can differentiate between what is good and what is bad.
Okay.
So I think there's a challenge with AI of people just using it without really understanding what it's doing. And that's going to be, I think, the thing we need to navigate over the next few years of, okay, if we don't do this properly, if we don't like teach people how to use it properly, then we're going to end up with a lot of software that is going to be very difficult to debug because no one understands how it works. They've just added it to their code, and there's not much you can do about it at that point. Like I've not seen like AI be like as intelligent as being able to like, you know, debug and point out flaws. So you can't just give it like, tell me what, like throw it in like all this code and just say, tell me what's wrong with this code.
It won't do it. It won't do it. It will have a go, will it? Or
It'll have a go, but it's not very good
effective.
at it.
Is that a temporary problem though? Can you see in 2 years' time that actually AI will advance to the point where it can do that?
Well, if you think about it though, it is trained on code. Like it's trained on code what's already there, and there's a lot of bad code as well as there is a lot of good code.
Yeah.
And so it really will need people who are like, building these LLMs to be like, no, that's good. That's bad. So it's hard to say. I think there is going to be some areas where it's going to be really like difficult for AI to be super helpful on, like especially on things that like where you constantly do new things. So like in my team, we typically do things that have never been done before.
Yeah. Okay.
So getting AI to help with that is a challenge because it's not been done before. So how AI has not seen that problem before. Yeah. So those things, it tends to be quite hard to help with, but it's very good with stuff where it's got repeatable data that it can use and say, no, you want to be doing this.
So how do you think AI will change the role of a software developer then? In 5 years' time, will the role of your role look different? Well, not yours necessarily, but a typical software development role, will that look different to what it looks like today?
So I think anyone who isn't using it like as part of like Copilot or like any sort of like AI IDE is missing out on a real opportunity to have like things written for them very, very quickly. I like, for example, I use GitHub Copilot because I get it with work, and you can literally just like write one test case, for example, and then once you've written one test case, and then like you can start writing the title of the other ones, and then it'll start writing the code for you, and then you can just keep doing that, and it's really, really powerful in that sense of it's very good at replicating what's been done before, and it saves you a lot of time and gets rid of a lot of mundane work for you, but you are still required to think about what it is that you're doing.
That's amazing. So, hi guys, just jumping in, I want to talk about one of the services we offer, which is robotic process automation, also known as RPA. That is software that replicates human behavior. So if you've got people downloading spreadsheets, attaching them to emails, going on portals, downloading information, moving data around, all that stuff is perfect for a robot. So if that's interesting, get in touch, let's have a chat, let's see if we can help. Enough from me, back to the conversation. Going back to what you said a minute ago, so are we potentially sitting on a bit of a ticking time bomb in terms of there's lots of new applications being written, just getting code from ChatGPT or somewhere and chucking it in, and actually the quality of the code is not as good as it should be, that could cause us problems in the future? Or is that...
I think that's a real problem, especially for companies who are trying to kind of like change, having like experienced developers. I actually potentially see if companies are like only like say hiring senior developers now to like use with AI, because of increased productivity, saying, okay, we don't need to hire juniors anymore or whatever, because we can just use senior engineers and we can use them with AI. I see in like 5 years time those seniors going off, and then there being like a shortage of developers in the market if they don't like bring new people in. So we could end up in a few years time having a skills gap between those who have like left the industry because they've retired, they've changed roles, or they've gone into like more like tech lead type roles, and then not having enough juniors that have come in.
But presumably there's more and more people going into the world of software development at the junior level, is there? Or am I wrong in that?
From what I understand, like there's been like quite a lot of like layoffs recently, like in different parts of the world, like in US and things like that. So the amount of junior roles has drastically reduced. Okay.
There's lots of people, but potentially not the roles for them to fill at the minute. Okay.
I was going to say, is that because businesses look down and go, actually, we don't need that lower tier because we can skip that by using...
I honestly, I have no idea. Like the reasons. I just know that like when you compare like the industry now to what it was like COVID, like during peak COVID, there just is a lot less roles available.
Wow.
Well, yeah. So COVID, I guess, increased a lot of digitisation. So because people couldn't get in the office, we saw it, and so people shopping online more, and therefore I guess that drove a load of growth in some of the big tech companies. Do you think we're seeing more people moving away from things like online shopping and going back to bricks and mortar? Or are we seeing more of a kind of divergence back to pre-COVID world?
I definitely think there's a big divergence when it comes to like companies and the hiring practices now. There's a lot more like hybrid roles rather than fully remote roles. There's a lot more like return to office policies that like appear to be happening, and like incentives to get people to come back to the office. So I definitely see it from that sense. I'm not sure about like the like online shopping there. I still think that's like, I think TikTok's made that like
yeah. So what's your view on the getting back in the office then? Because you presumably you work 100% remote, do you? You don't.
Yeah, so I think it's, you know, if I could go to the office, if like I had the option, I would definitely go more to the office. I like being in the office, and I don't think it's a bad thing like to have people in the office, especially like I did a post on this a couple of months back, but I actually think it's really good for junior engineers to get into the office, because like when you're online, it can be quite, especially if you don't have that confidence yet, like it can be quite scary to be like, okay, can you help me with this thing? Whereas when you're in the office with people, if you have an issue, it's quite easy to like read the room and like see if someone's been stuck on something or something like that. So I actually think it's a really good thing for like junior engineers to get into the office.
Yeah, I agree completely. Not just engineering, I think it's any junior role, whether it's sales or something else, it's the ability to get people in and be around experienced people and just pick stuff up.
And just hear when someone's either, had a problem and they're getting assistance on it. So people are like, well, actually, John, Steve, you might as well just listen in. Or, equally, it's like when someone's had a bit of success, on the flip side, it's like, actually, what have you done differently that's made it work? So that whole just being able to hear, like you said, Jade, what's going on in the room and understand actually they're doing something right and they're getting praise, or actually they've moved on to the next level. What have they done? And just, you don't get that when on Teams, do you, unfortunately?
No, it's like, I think there's only so much that can be done like when like within the virtual like world of corporate, but I do think like when I see when I was a junior, I know that I would not have been able to completely work remotely 100% of the time, like, and be able to do my role as effectively as I could do if I was in the office. Like, I think it took me about 4 years of working before I was able to comfortably work remotely all the time.
So yeah, that I 100% agree. But I think that could be a bit of a controversial view sometimes with people. I think I see a lot of divided opinion on it in terms of people absolutely swear by remote working and think you should do it from day one, and then you've got the opposite side of the argument.
Well, I was going to ask you, the juniors in either your team or teams within, I suppose it's a bit different with Microsoft because I guess most of you have to, but what's their will when they're applying or they want the job? Is it their desire? Is it is remote, or some of them want to find the local regional office? What's
so I think so just I wanted to address the point that Stephen first. You said about like how there's a big divided opinion. I think that's because there's a lot of people are very different. Like some people do really thrive on working remotely themselves and can, are really good self-starters, but there's also a lot of people who aren't. And it's just acknowledging that like there are differences in personalities and there's differences in the way that people work. And that's why some people work really effectively remotely and some people don't. Like I know personally, I much prefer like having the ability to do both. I would love to be able to go into the office more if I was able to. However, I've got to a point where I've grown my skills enough that I can work remotely quite effectively. But that's taken time. It's not something that like I was able to do at the beginning.
Yeah, and that's my point. I think we've got people in our team that, you know, our head of technical consultancy is a remote worker. We rarely see the guy, but he's been doing it for 20 years and he just knows what he's doing and he just cracks on. But then, and same with our technical team. But if we were recruiting a junior person, we would be really keen to get them in the office a lot in the first at least 6 months, probably longer than that actually, because you just learn so much.
Yeah, and then to your point, Microsoft, I think now are mostly hiring like local to the offices.
Right.
Recently, yeah.
Do you ever get to go over to the US and see the big dogs?
I'm going in 2 weeks actually.
Right.
2.5 weeks. I fly out to Seattle for a week. We're doing the hackathon. So I did it last year, and then we're doing it again this year.
So talk us through that then. So what does a hackathon look like for Microsoft?
So we just we had to sign up to different projects.
Okay.
And the projects are typically themed. So our theme is like AI this year. So we have to pick something that's AI related. And then we sign up to a project. So I'm going to be an individual contributor this year. Last year I was a project owner and I didn't get to explore as much as I wanted to. So this year I'm going to be an individual contributor and get to explore a little bit more. So that's
is it for a day, a week? How long is the hackathon?
So I fly out on the 14th of September and then I fly back on the 20th of September. And
so you work intensively for a week and then some sort of presentation at the end of what you've built, or how does that?
Yeah, so you typically have like 3 days where you do the hack. So we like are in groups of our teams. So there's like this big hall where we all go for where our teams sit, and then we have a table for each of our teams, and then we hack during the day, and then there's typically activities on the night. So I think there's the town hall first night, and then I think on the Thursday we're going somewhere, and then on the Tuesday and the Wednesday we're doing some other things, and then on the Friday and then on the Thursday there's science fair prep, so where we prep for the science fair which is going to be on the Friday, where we showcase the project.
Fantastic. Is there a winner, or is everybody a winner?
No, I think there is a winner. So they do pick a winner for the project that they think is going to have the best impact. And then, like my project last year didn't win it. It got an honorary mention.
Right.
And which means it has the ability to impact customers.
Okay. And do they take them on then? Do they invest in some of those kind of embryos of ideas, or?
I think they do. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they do. Like invest in some. I always didn't get invested in, but like I've definitely seen like other projects, like the product group, like take inspiration from our ideas. So that's been cool.
And you sorry, I'll finish questioning this a bit, but I find it fascinating. Are you given complete freedom to build whatever you want, or is it you need to build something within the world of AI in communications around Teams, or have you given some constraints around that?
We are given some constraints. So in order to participate in the hackathon in Redmond, we have to, like, it has to be AI, and I think it has to be to do with like a Microsoft product, so Microsoft Azure or similar. I can't remember the exact criteria, but I know that it was like to do with AI and Microsoft.
How many people would be? So you're going over mid-September. How many people will be in the hackathon in the hall?
1,000, I think.
I get that.
About 1,000.
And the size of teams?
I think the teams are around 10.
Oh my God.
Do you have? Is it like a Scrum team set up, a product owner that's there to kind of drive the roadmap, and not much of a roadmap in 5 days, but or is it just all developers together and
so we typically have like 2 roles really in our like department, which is called ISE, and so we've got the like software engineers, individual contributors, and you've got like the TPMs, like technical project managers.
Okay.
And so we'll have a combination of the two, and then the technical like project program managers will like typically do that scoping, building up the backlog, like talking about like how the project's going, and then you'll have the developers doing the developing.
Okay, Cool.
But like, to be fair, the beauty of the hackathon is that you can like decide, like you can do whatever role that you want in it. So like you don't have, if you wanted to do some coding, even though you're a technical program manager, you could absolutely do that.
Okay. Love it. Love that idea. Okay, and we always ask all guests to cast your mind forward. So the podcast is called Tomorrow's Workplace Today. So we always say, cast your mind forward 10 years. What does tomorrow's workplace, what does the workplace of 10 years' time look like in comparison to today? What do you think the big changes will be?
I definitely think, like, especially in the tech world, like AI is going to be a lot more prevalent. I think I don't necessarily think it's going to be used in the way that like a lot of companies are trying to use it. I think a lot of companies are trying to use it as a replacement for people, and I think it's going to be more of an aid. Like, so I think we're going to be able to use it a lot more, like to help us with our roles rather than to replace our roles like completely. Because I just don't think, I've seen like companies try and use it where they've like, you know, tried to cut out the middleman, and it's just not been quite successful.
Love it. Love it. All right, brilliant, Jade. Thank you very much for coming on, and good luck with everything at Microsoft. Good luck with everything on LinkedIn. It's great to see you on there.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Cheers.
All right.